Holy Babble.
The book of Numbers rests between two of the most notorious books in the Bible, and perhaps because of that, it doesn't get as much attention as Leviticus and Deuteronomy. And sure, Numbers doesn't have the homophobic flair of Leviticus or the thank God the Pentateuch is over satisfaction of Deuteronomy, but if you were to insert it into any other book ever written, Numbers would almost certainly be the most fucked up portion of that book. But mostly it's just a horribly boring book that details one leg of the trip from Sinai to the Promised Land, punctuated with moments of brutal insanity that might just be there to keep you awake. Joining Heath and me to discuss this strange little hybrid of bookkeeping and genocide is my beautiful wife, Lucinda. Lucinda, welcome back.
Hi, Noah. I'd say I'm happy to be here and all, but after reading Numbers, I don't really think God would want me saying anything without your permission. So I'm just going to say hi.
Yeah, this is probably the most sexist book we've come across yet, and we'll get to all of that. But first things first, if the Jews are going to take over the Holy Land, they're going to need an army.
Right, of course. So we start with the original Schindler's Enlistment. Then we lay out the structure for the Judaism pyramid scheme, or tetrahedron. Somebody has to start the game with all the reds and oranges, plus all four railroads.
And on top of that, none of the people in Moses' tribe have to join the army, and when they camp in the wilderness, they get to set their tents up smack in the middle of the other 11 tribes that are armed.
Well, would you want rabbis in the front lines of your army? No, you want badass Israeli commando-type Jews like Adam Sandler, not pale, bearded, shitty drivers that started the Crown Heights riots by running over a black pedestrian.
Oh, and of course, God's going to need some money to go with this army.
Right, so in Chapter 3, Aaron loses about 1,365 shekels in a card game and sets up the most ridiculous, elaborate, nonsensical story to get the money back from his flock of ancient nomadic tribes that apparently all carry reasonable amounts of fungible hard currency at all times. Weird. So technically, 273 extra babies that should have been righteously murdered.
Which sounds a lot like an endorsement for abortion to me.
No. It's not abortion right after birth. That's just righteous murder in this case. What had happened is God was going to kill all your kids, but me and my family of 22,000 agreed to live a life of purported divine privilege in exchange for saving them. But you all had 22,273 firstborn children.
Whoops.
So God's going to need 5 shekels apiece for the accounting discrepancy. Us Levites will collect the cash here and write God a post-dated check. It'll be fine.
Then we get God's overly elaborate tabernacle relocation strategy. Basically, he spends chapter 4 channeling a foul-tempered old lady with Alzheimer's bitching at the moving guys. I said wrap it in blue cloth. No, I want the Gershonites to carry the curtains, I said. Careful with those lamps or I'll incinerate you with fireballs, young man. And then we get started with the sexism.
Oh, yes.
In Chapter 5, we learn how to tell whether your wife has been fucking the goat milk man using nothing more than dirty water, a handful of flour, and fucking misogyny.
The old grain offering, dirty water miscarriage trick. Everybody's heard of that one. Seems like this is just a way for dudes to save face when they had a slutty wife, doesn't it? Having her drink dirty water might make her sick, but I'm fairly certain it's never led to an instantaneous immaculate hysterectomy. So every time they do the ceremony, the dude doesn't look like an asshole because his wife's womb doesn't fall out on the spot, fucking obviously.
Yeah, I was expecting them to break out a skill and a duck at any moment.
Good Monty Python, well done.
And then we get the rules for the vow of the Nazarites, which is spelled Nazi rights. Kind of fucks you up in the middle of a Jew book.
Ironically.
Chapter 7, God shamelessly ups the word count by spelling out the exact same 90-word sacrifice 12 fucking times. The Levites shave all their hair and pubes, and in Chapter 9, we learn that God's a cloud. Don't forget Passover's coming up. Then he adds a brass section, and they're ready to go conquer the Promised Land.
Hold on here. If I'm being a stickler, God should have asked for brass plated with silver if he wanted a fuller timbre for those trumpets. Nobody's perfect,
No.
though. And moving on to Chapter 11, as soon as they hit the road, the Jews start bitching because they don't like manna and they want some meat.
Couldn't God have solved the meat shortage by not demanding so many damn sacrifices?
Sure, but I guess this was supposed to be some grand punishment for not appreciating the Triscuit rain. It's not too impressive. Hey, do you guys have a 3-foot-tall pile of quail in your yard? Okay, I guess since we're nomadic, we just eat a bunch now. Maybe not so much that the quail actually oozes out of my nostrils, literally, but a lot. We eat a lot now, and then start heading towards the next place on Moses' shitty desert obstacle course, I guess.
What the fuck were they trying to say there? I mean, were the angels going to force feed their asses like Kevin Spacey's character in Seven?
And God was like, shit, yeah, that doesn't smite them much at all. And plague. I said the quail thing and plague. Nobody heard me, but I said and plague at the end as I trailed off. And plague.
And in chapter 12, Aaron and his wife talk shit about Moses, so God makes her a leper for a week.
Right, and when Moses asks God to go easy on her so she doesn't turn out like a stillborn baby with its flesh half eaten off, he justifies making her skin right off by saying if her father spit in her face, would she not be shamed for 7 days? Oh, well, when you put it that way.
Oh, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Can't make this shit up. So next we meet 00 Shiva scouting out the promised land, and they say that all the people already living there are too strong for all the quail-engorged Israelites to displace. So God throws one of his patented temper tantrums and kills pretty much everybody for bitching too much. He curses their children, he sends a plague, he marched an army out to die. Standard operating procedure.
And as if that's not enough, he unpromises them the promised land.
Yeah, it's part of the act where the hypnotist removes all the free-thinking non-sheep from the stage, leaving only the blindly faithful idiots who are truly qualified to run the future of Judaism. Chapter 15, right in the middle of some proper goat-killing etiquette, we learn that Moses and the gang find a guy picking up sticks on the Sabbath, so, of course, God commands them to stone him to death.
Of course.
We don't even have to make this shit up. And then, like a whiplash-inducing subject change, in the next verse after the stoning, God reminds everybody that he likes fringes on the outfits. So don't forget to add the fringes.
So seriously, it may sound somewhat contradictory, but no faggots on Saturday, and tassels for everyone! Also, lest you forget, I'm fucking God, so listen to this shit.
And then we get this weird little mutiny. Some other Levites challenge Moses' leadership, so he challenges them to an incense-burning match to the death.
Take out your censors, bitches. I'll fucking outsmoke anyone. Throw
Motherfucker,
down.
you light incense like Michael J. Fox on a meth binge. You call that a grain offering? I got more fiber in my stools.
Oh, so God goes fucking nuts, right? He opens up the earth to swallow whole families along with their slaves and furnishings. He burns 250 people alive, and then he kills 14,000 more with a plague. Anyway, just in case the house-swallowing, fireball-chucking, plague-sending message wasn't clear enough, God also has Moses write everybody's name on a stick, and then only Aaron's stick grows flowers for whatever reason. In chapter 18, we reinforce the priests get all the best shit motif, and then in 19, we kill cows and we don't touch dead people.
Okay, chapter 20, God kills Moses' brother, and in the serial killer fashion I've learned to expect from deities, especially Old Testament God, he doesn't just plain murder Aaron. He makes his son watch his naked father die on the fucking mountain,
God.
and then walk back down the mountain wearing his murdered father's clothes.
Classy.
The fuck?
Then God continues to be an asshole and sends a bunch of poisonous serpents to kill the Jews to stop them from bitching, and then finally Moses goes on the warpath and starts killing some motherfuckers. And then, apparently in chapter 22, there was some kind of biblical writer's strike, so they had the folks from Disney step in for a few chapters. Because all of a sudden, everybody's like breaking into song, and there's a talking donkey.
And didn't Balaam, or whatever the fuck his name is, seem strangely nonplussed by this?
Well, in fairness, he thought he was speaking to God earlier. So talking to a donkey who sounds like Eddie Murphy is far more plausible in this situation.
Great.
So basically the story here is that Balak, I guess, is trying to get Balaam, I guess, to go to war against the Israelites, but Balaam knows that God's on their side, so he spends a couple of chapters refusing in song. Then we get another census, because holy shit, it's been almost 22 chapters since we counted all the Jews.
Well, God had killed a lot of them since then.
True, yeah.
Moving on to chapter 30, we learn the difference between man's vows, which must be kept, and women vows, must be kept unless a man says so.
Yeah, just in case the whole women are inferior to men thing wasn't clear by now. God hammers it home one more time for us.
Right, then they go on to war with the Midianites and slaughter them. All the men of fighting age are killed. And Moses is furious because they failed to kill the women and children. I'm not getting God to divinely inspire our army for you guys to not fully murder, pillage, and rape everyone. I've got to be a stickler on this one or my boss yells at me. And he's always watching. You either murder them or you rape them or both in either order. Understood?
Then, thanks to the cattle-rustling Reubenites and Gadites, Jews start a long and storied tradition of building settlements in other people's land. Then we get a chapter that rehashes every spot where they camped for the last 40 fucking years.
Riveting.
Fascinating.
Yeah, they divvy up the promised land before they actually possess it, of course. God takes a minute to spell out exactly what is and isn't murder, and then they finish it all out with a soft close concerning inheritances and marriage.
So what do we learn in Numbers? We learn, first of all, that God's a wrathful, vengeful, aberrant, petty tyrant.
Well, we relearn that, I suppose.
We learn that women are worthless.
We learn that donkeys can talk. We learn that genocide is A-OK.
And we learn that anybody who read the first 4 books of the Bible and didn't come out the other side an atheist needs to work on their reading comprehension skills.
Amen.
So Heath, Lucinda, thanks for suffering through this with me once again.
Fantastic time.
No,
Always.
it wasn't.